Good morning. I call the meeting of the June 23rd, 2026 Marine Resources Commission to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Associate Commissioner Bransom, followed by invocation by Associate Commissioner. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Thank you, Lord, for giving us this day to gather here at Virginia Marine Resources Commission to discuss important marine resource issues. Allow us to do this to the best of our ability and knowledge. For this we pray. Amen.
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 Are there any corrections, deletions, or changes from the commission members or the staff to the current agenda? Seeing none, need a motion to approve the agenda.
Approve. Second.
Mr. Bransom, Mr. Erskine. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Are there any corrections, deletions, or changes from the commission members or staff for the May 26, 2026 commission meeting minutes? See nothing from staff.
A motion to approve is submitted.
Second.
All approved, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. At this time, I will swear in the VMRC staff and the VIM staff that would be speaking or presenting testimony during the meeting. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you will provide today will be the truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? Have a seat. Chief Simpson. There you are. You're not hanging out with the team. I understand we have new staff to introduce today.
That's correct. Good morning, everyone. I would like to take this opportunity to introduce our two new data specialists. Overall, incredibly happy to have them. Very talented pair of individuals. Going to be a great addition to the team. So first, to my left, this is Reese Aponte. Reese earned her master's degree in coastal marine and wetland studies from Coastal Carolina. She previously worked as an environmental scientist conducting various lab studies, and her last position was at VIMS as a fisheries research specialist working with species like scallops and whelk. To her left is Lindsay Nelson. She earned her master's degree in fisheries science from VIMS. She also previously worked as an observer in Alaska, doing the hard work out there, and conducted electronic monitoring for Pacific cod pots. Her last position was working on long-term data modeling with the Northeast Fisheries Science Center. So we welcome them, and we'll be putting them to good use over the foreseeable future.
Welcome to the commission, and looking forward to having you stop by my office at some point, because I know I haven't seen you there yet. So, Chief, get on that.
Yeah, I've been trying. Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Any others? Look at my other chiefs. We good? All right, thank you. All right, consent agenda items. Are there, I take it there are no consent agenda items today? Nothing? Thank you. Counselor, is there a closed meeting need today for consultation?
No, sir.
All right. Public comment. Is there any member of the public wishing to speak about any item that is not on the agenda today? This is for items not on the agenda today. Seeing none. All right. Referral permits, projects over $500,000 with no objection with staff recommendation for approval.
Good morning, members of the commission. Again, we have 4 page 2 items that are projects in excess of $1 million regarding their impacts to state-owned submerged lands. And then we have a couple projects at the end where you all will be serving as the wetlands board. Item 2A, the Army Corps of Engineers is requesting authorization to hydraulically place up to 200,000 cubic yards of sandy dredge material from the maintenance dredging of the Winter Harbor Project Channel, approximately 3.6 million square feet, upon approximately 3.6 million square feet of state-owned submerged bottom. creating a berm adjacent to undeveloped parcels along the Chesapeake Bay near Winter Harbor in Matthews County. Staff is recommending approval of the project with a time of year restriction of April 1 through October 31 of any given year to protect submerged aquatic vegetation, or SAV. And the drawings we referenced in that last sentence, they were just recently received, but we don't have that condition or that requirement. Item 2B, the City of Bristol is requesting authorization to construct a 51-foot wide clear span superstructure replacement bridge over a 35-foot section of Beaver Creek along Goodson Street in the City of Bristol. Similarly, the City of Bristol for 2C is requesting authorization to construct a 91-foot wide clear span replacement bridge over a 45-foot section of Beaver Creek along Martin Luther King Boulevard in the City of Bristol. Item 2D, Northumberland County is requesting authorization to hydraulically or mechanically maintenance dredge approximately 22,700 cubic yards of state-owned submerged lands to minus 10 feet mean low water with beach and nearshore placement of the sandy dredge material along properties immediately downstream of the Smith Point Inlet to the Little Wacomico River in Northumberland County. Staff is recommending approval of the project with our standard dredge permit conditions and contingent upon the submittal of final drawings that specifically detail the placement methodology of the sandy material. These last two items, 2E and 2F, you all are serving as the Wetlands Board, as these localities have rescinded their wetlands ordinance. 2E, Stephen Richard is requesting authorization to remove and replace 5 48-foot low-profile timber groins, to reconstruct 1 48-foot low-profile stone groin, and to install 2 48-foot low-profile stone groins at 199 and 221 Shellfield Road, situated along the Rappahannock River in Essex County. This project requires a VMRC Wetlands Board permit. Once our wetlands permit is issued, we can then issue our general permit for groins. Item 2F, Charles Tango is requesting authorization to construct and backfill 80 linear feet of vinyl bulkhead and install 65 linear feet of stone revetment at 5237 Pickett River Drive, situated along the James River in Henrico County. Staff recommends approval with the purchase of Virginia Stream and Wetland Mitigation Program credits to compensate for wetlands impacts. And that program is basically what the Virginia Aquatic Trust Fund was previously, sponsored by the Nature Conservancy.
Thank you, Deputy Chief. Any questions from the board? Seeing none. Let's see if we can do this the easy way. Is there anyone here in the public here to speak in opposition of these page 2 items? Seeing none. Is anyone here to speak in favor that absolutely needs to come to the podium? All right. Thank you. It helps us save a little time today. Matters before the board.
Motion to approve page 2 items.
Second.
I got a competition for second. I'll give it to Mr. Preston. All right. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Ayes have it. Page 2 is approved. All right. Do appreciate y'all coming. I did notice the yellow shirts out there, so appreciate y'all coming and support it. Moving on, I'll let everyone that wants to go get out the door. All right, moving on to item number 6, Caroline County Department of Public Works, VMRC 2020-0514. Mr. Johnson.
Good morning.
Walk us through it.
If I can approach, I've received several comments.
Please.
Since our book was prepared. The last one received is 8:15 this morning. And that's included in there as well. Caroline County Marine Resources Commission, JPA number 2020-0514, is requesting authorization to install a 9 million gallon per day raw water intake structure along the south bank of the Rappahannock River at 38.2347 north, minus 77.30815 west, in Moss Neck and Olney Corner in Caroline County. This project is protested. Project location, my laser pointer turned on. Project location is located along the upper reaches of that Rappahannock River. Is still tidal in this location. Fredericksburg is located in this general area. This is the Rappahannock River moving up in this direction. Potomac River border with Maryland here. A little closer look. Again, here's Fredericksburg. What you see here is denoting the fall line, which is the boundary between tidal and non-tidal waters. And the project location is located approximately here, 13 river miles downstream of that fall line. Here's an aerial view of the project location. As you can see, the project parcel is currently farmland. This area has been obtained by Caroline County under eminent domain proceedings, and a copy of that certificate of take is in your packets. Here is a site plan for the proposed intake. The intake will encroach approximately 80 feet into the Rappahannock River. What you're looking at here are called heat maps, and this is helping you understand better the bathymetry of the river at the project location. So the reds are shallower, and you're getting deeper as you move in towards the greener colors. Where the intake structure is located is approximately the minus 10 foot mean low water contour, and the river deepens out to approximately 20 feet at its maximum. I'll have some other exhibits to help show you this a little bit better. Here are the plan details for the water intake structure. The intake will consist of 3 screens consisting of 42-inch by 12-inch screens, intake structures. The screens will have a mesh size of 1 millimeter with a max flow rate of 0.25 feet per second. These screen mesh and velocities are standard to protect planktonic life stages of local and anadromous fish species. The screens will allow the water to draw down into a 30-inch raw water line. There are also 3 6-inch air burst lines which are used to clean the screens of impinged debris. The entire structure will be supported by a 20-foot by 55-foot Tremie concrete base with a 12-foot by 15-foot extension, which will be located on the bottom of the river as shown in the right-hand panel. The top of the intake will be approximately 8 feet below the mean low water elevation, which should be protected with private vessels navigating the area. So this line you see extending around the intake structures is a proposed coffer dam. This is allowed work to occur in the dry to protect the river. The 3 intake screens, the 30-inch water line, and the air burst lines as well. Cross-section is just helping you to note better the Tremie concrete, the existing grade, and the coffer dams that will be used. Here's another cross-sectional drawing of the intake structure, including the full width with river depths or bathymetry, encroachment into the river, and how the structure will tie into the upland infrastructure. The river at the proposed location is 390 feet wide, and the intake will encroach 80 feet into the river. Again, the max depth of the river is approximately 20 feet, and that depth contour is about 120 feet channelward of the end of the intake. This should allow for safe navigation of the river for larger, deeper draft vessels as well. The 30-inch intake pipe and air burst lines will be enclosed in a 60-inch micro tunnel that will be bored from the intake to a 30-foot diameter secant pile shaft, which will then feed into the raw water processing pumping facility in the uplands, which is at approximately elevation of 40 feet above the river. So here's your 30-foot shaft coming down to grade, your 60-inch micro tunnel coming along, and then your associated water intake line and air burst lines. Here are some photos taken of the shoreline where the proposed intake will be located. The shoreline is undeveloped with a riparian buffer separating the river from the established farmland. During the construction phase of this riparian buffer will not be impacted. All this will be drilled in, so there will be no denuding of the shoreline here. Here are photos looking downriver and upriver of the proposed intake. The shorelines in both directions are undeveloped, again with wooded riparian buffers, which is typical for this river area, the area of the river. Pursuant to the Code of Virginia 28.2-1205.1, Coordinated Review of Water Resource Projects, a joint public notice of Caroline County's request was posted by the Commission and the Department of Environmental Quality in the Freelance Star and the Richmond Times Dispatch on May 18th, 2024. A total of 208 comments now have been received in opposition to the project, with no comments in favor. The majority of the comments submitted were related to the DEQ withdrawal permit that was issued on November 26, 2025, after the public hearing on August 20th, 2025. The comments centered on opposition for the use of the water for cooling of data centers, interbasin transfers of collected water from the Rappahannock River, which is proposed to be discharged into Mattaponi River, the amount of water being withdrawn, and its effects on the ecology of the river, including salinity changes and impacts to the flora and fauna of the river, such as Atlantic sturgeon and anadromous fish. Protestants include the Friends of the Rappahannock, the Upper Mattaponi Tribe, the Mattaponi Tribe, the Pamunkey Tribe, multiple citizens from the project area, and the Rappahannock Tribe, who are currently engaged in a lawsuit with DEQ regarding their permit issuance. I just want to highlight a few of the comments that were received, specifically the amount of the water being withdrawn, the use of that water, and the interbasin transfer. This is all within DEQ's purview. We are permitting only the structures themselves. We're not permitting the amount of water, how that water is used, or how that water is discharged, since there's no structures proposed for the discharge of that water. So this is all covered under DEQ permit. You're focusing primarily on the structures themselves and the impacts of those structures to the riverine system. Specifically, in the comments, impacts the salinity and ecology of the river and the threats to anadromous fish and sturgeon. VIMS did provide comments on the project. As part of the review, a particle tracking model was run, looking at how the intake would affect planktonic life stages of fish in the area, including herring and striped bass. The results of the model showed that the intake would remove less than 1% of the eggs and planktonic larvae from the river, which is below natural mortality rates for these life stages. They also noted that the applicant has agreed to the use of 1 millimeter screen mesh size and max flow rates of 0.25 feet per second, which is recognized as being protective of the fish eggs and larvae due to impingement and entrainment in the intake system. Additionally, VIMS reviewed salinity models, which were run by the applicant, and concurred that the volume of water proposed to be withdrawn would not affect salinity in the river due to the total amount of water in the Rappahannock River shed. They also recommended a time of year restriction of February 15th through June 30 for in-stream construction to protect anadromous fish spawning runs and the use of cofferdams during in-stream construction activities to prevent increased turbidity in the water column. Staff also conferred with Department of Wildlife Resources regarding mussel species in the project area, and their comments consisted of an in-stream time of year restriction of April 15th through June 15th and August 15th through September 30th to protect freshwater mussels, and these are spawning dates. So that's what they're trying to protect is when these mussels are spawning. And they also requested a freshwater mussel survey and relocation that must be completed no more than 6 months prior to the initiation of construction in in-stream from 100 meters upstream to 400 meters downstream of the project area. I'll also note that these comments are incorporated into the DEQ permit and our special permit conditions in that permit as well. I will go ahead and read the summary recommendation into the record. As previously stated, the project requires commission authorization for the encroachment of state-owned bottom land pursuant to Title 28.2, Chapter 12 of the Code of Virginia. While staff acknowledges all the protestants' concerns, it is imperative to note that the Commission's statutory jurisdiction over this project results from the physical encroachment of the intake structure over state-owned submerged lands within the Rappahannock River. The project's impact on the water quality of the waterway is determined by DEQ's permit and not this Commission. It should be noted the applicant has reduced the proposed withdrawal amounts from 13.9 million gallons per day to 9 million gallons per day, and that the DEQ permit states the permitted withdrawal will be used to provide a municipal public water supply. Other uses are not authorized by this permit. In light of the protestants' concerns with impacts to anadromous fish life history and salinity, staff solicited input from the Commission's scientific advisors at VIMS. Their particle tracking model indicated that mortality due to impingement and train of platonic fish eggs and larvae was below natural mortality levels and would not have a significant impact on fish populations. Additionally, they determined salinity levels would not change due to the proposed withdrawal amounts and the volume of water upstream of the intake location. Accordingly, in light of DEQ's jurisdiction and authority to regulate the raw water withdrawal rate, and after evaluating the merits of the project and considering all the factors contained in Code 28.2-1205 and Code 62.1-10, which states that public water supply uses for human consumption shall be considered the highest priority, staff recommends approval of the project as proposed. Staff believes the anticipated public and private benefits of proposed municipal intake exceed the anticipated public and private detriments, and recommends granting the permit with the following special conditions. The intake shall be equipped with 1 millimeter mesh screens and maximum intake velocity of 0.25 feet per second. The in-stream construction activities shall be accomplished within cofferdams constructed of non-erodible materials, detailed in the current edition of the Virginia Erosion Sediment Control Handbook. In-stream work time of year restriction of February 15th to June 30th to protect fish migratory and reproductive behavior. An in-stream work time of year restriction of April 15th through June 15th and August 15th through September 30th to protect freshwater mussels. And a freshwater mussel survey and relocation must be completed within 6 months prior to the initiation of construction in-stream, 100 meters upstream to 400 meters downstream. That concludes my presentation. I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Question board, Mr. White.
On the summary review, you got, it's imperative to note that the commission's statutory jurisdiction over this project results from the physical encroachment of the intake structure over state-owned submerged lands. Is that the only thing we're to consider today? Just the intake structure and that, not the water coming out, the water going in, any of that business?
That's correct. All the intake and the use of that water is covered under DEQ's permit. We're permitting the structure or the encroachment on the bottom and the effects of that structure.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Pransom.
Yes, sir. Are you familiar with the DEQ permit and what its bounds are?
Yeah, yes, and it's in your packet as well.
I haven't yet got through that, but it talks about in a letter from the Essex County Conservation, Conservation Alliance, it talks about the DEQ revised permit does not allow for water to be withdrawn from the Rappahannock for, quote, industrial cooling. Is that part of their permit?
I believe so.
That's the basis of most of the objections that I've read
Yeah.
in the package.
I believe so, but
And that's
from a
under their-
legal standpoint, I'm not going to.
Right, I understand, but that's under their
That's-
purview, not ours. Okay, all right, thank you.
Anything else? Mr. Erskine.
Thanks for the presentations. Were there any concerns or any consideration given to safety, navigational safety hazards
So-
with encroachment out?
So I did review it, given that where it's located, only is 80 feet from shore, the fact that the deepest part of the river is still another 120 feet offshore, and the river's 390 feet wide, and given that the elevation that this will be at, minus 8 feet mean low water, I didn't think there'd be any impacts to navigation, because looking upstream, there is no commercial. It looks like this is all private boat use.
Okay.
So I didn't think that there were any impacts to navigation, but certainly if the staff is concerned about that, we could certainly have them look at maybe putting up a danger marker sign or something like that.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Preston.
Question. I read through 177 comments yesterday, and I'm thankful for everybody that wrote in and commented on it. There's a whole lot of opposed to it, but most of what's opposed is just water. A lot of it's related to a data center that's no longer on the docket. This is pertaining to just drinking water. Who else? Is there another structure like this in the Rappahannock above Caroline County? Fredericksburg, do they use anything similar along these lines where they're drawing as well? And I know that's not related to what we're approving, but just a question that keeps coming to my mind.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with what Fredericksburg has in terms of water, any kind of water intakes for their water supply. I think there was an old King George. I saw an old intake structure further downstream of the river. I'm not for sure if it's in use at this time or not, but there is an older intake structure in King George County on the northern side.
Okay.
Any other questions from the board at this time? Seeing none. Thank you, Ms. Johnson. We'll call you back up in a little bit. Is the applicant present? Come forward, please. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Are you a lawyer?
No, sir, I'm not.
Okay. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you provide today will be the truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
State your name for the record,
Joseph Shebel,
and you represent?
Caroline County.
You're representing Caroline County. Are you an employee of Caroline, or are you a consultant?
I am the Director of the county's Public Works Public Utilities Department.
All right, good to have you here, Director. You may present.
Yes, sir. Thanks.
I believe staff's let you know there is a time limit to all this.
Can you refresh our mind how long that is?
It's supposed to be 5 minutes, but I want to make sure they didn't tell you something different. You told them 10? Chief? All right, I'll grant it, since they did tell you that.
And just hit the enter bar to move forward. Or hit the enter to move forward.
Okay, thank you.
I got you, thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, staff, and guests. On behalf of Caroline County Board of Supervisors and the citizens of Caroline County, I would like to thank you for your time and consideration today. My name is Joseph Shebel. I serve as the Director of the Public Works Utility Department for Caroline County. During my 33 years with Caroline County, securing a reliable water resource has constantly been one of the most critical issues facing our community. As the county has grown, ensuring an adequate, sustainable water supply has remained essential to protecting public health, supporting economic development, and meeting the needs of our residents and businesses. The Rappahannock River Water Intake Project has been the forefront of those efforts more than 25 years. It represents decades of planning, engineering, environmental review, permitting, coordinating with local, state, and federal agencies. Today, we are here before you seeking to take another important step to securing Caroline County's long-term water needs. This project is intended to provide a reliable and sustainable water source that will serve our citizens for generations to come, while protecting the natural resources of the Rappahannock River. Our permit would allow the withdrawal of only 0.5% of the river's flow, leaving approximately 99.5% of the water in the Rappahannock River system. Throughout the permitting process, Caroline County has worked diligently with the regulatory agencies, environmental professionals, citizens, conservation groups, technical experts to ensure that the project is designed to operate in a responsible and environmentally sound manner. Throughout the permitting process, the county's consultants, engineers have conducted numerous technical studies. While the Virginia Institute of Marine Science performed an independent scientific evaluation and reviewed the county's analysis of the supporting data, both the county studies and the VIM's independent finding concluded that the proposed intake will have a de minimis impact on the river and its ecosystem. Its evaluation examined the potential effects of the aquatic life, river flow, habitat, water quality, and changes in salinity throughout the river system. The studies determined that the proposed withdrawal would not result in significant adverse environmental impacts. In addition, the county has incorporated numerous design features and operational safeguards to protect to further minimize impacts and ensure compliance with all applicable state and federal requirements. Caroline County recognizes the importance of being a responsible steward of the Rappahannock River, and we understand that this river is a very valuable natural resource. This serves many communities, supports diverse wildlife, and provides recreational opportunities throughout the region. It is because of this importance that we have spent decades developing the project to balance the county's long-term water supply needs and the protection of the river's economical resources. On the slide, I show a timeline of when we originally submitted our first application in March of 2005. As you can see, this project has been under development for more than 25 years and is involved in extensive study, planning, permitting, and environmental review. You'll notice that the period of limited activity between 2008 and 2050 was largely as the result of the national financial crisis and the significant downturn in the housing market, which reduced development activity and growth throughout the region. During this period, the county was forced to prioritize its limited financial resources to continue to preserve the long-term viability of the project. As economic conditions have improved, the county resumed its efforts, continued moving the project forward through the necessary engineering, environmental, and permitting. After more than 25 years of the study, planning, permitting, and review, we believe the project demonstrates a careful balance between meeting the Caroline County's long-term water supply needs and protecting the environment of the Rappahannock River. This project will meet the needs of Caroline County and our project partners, the town of Bowling Green and the town of Port Royal. Today, our water system relies entirely on groundwater wells. The Eastern Virginia groundwater management area has significantly limited the availability of additional groundwater resources in our region, making diversification of our water supply increasingly important. The town of Bowling Green is currently addressing gross alpha exceedances and has limited alternatives available without access to an additional water source. Likewise, Caroline County is currently operating under a Stage 3 water restrictions, limiting outdoor water use to our citizens and businesses. In my 3 decades with Caroline County, I've never seen a project more important than the long-term sustainability and resilience of our water system than the Rappahannock River Intake Project. This project represents a crucial investment in Caroline County's long-term water security and our ability to serve current and future generations. At this time, I'd like to turn my presentation over to Mr. Roger Arnold with Hazen and Sawyer, who will present the rest of this on behalf of the county.
Solemnly swear testimony you provide today will be the truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
State your name for the record,
Roger Arnold.
and you represent.
I'm with Hazen and Sawyer and speaking on behalf of the applicant, Caroline County.
Y'all are still under the same time, so
Understood. We will be brief.
make use of it.
This project is driven largely by groundwater supply limitations in Eastern Virginia. DEQ has declared a groundwater management area in Eastern Virginia, which limits the ability of Caroline County and other users throughout Eastern Virginia to use groundwater for drinking water supply in the future. So the county is being proactive here to move towards an alternate water supply that will meet its long-term needs while also preserving this important resource for other users in Eastern Virginia. As required by Virginia Code, the county has been proactively planning for its long-term water supply needs over the coming decades and has identified a need for additional water supply. The DEQ permit term is 15 years, and within that 15-year period, the county estimates that they will need approximately 5.1 million gallons per day on an average day basis by 2038. That includes water supply for Caroline County's water systems, the town of Bowling Green, and the town of Port Royal, who have partnered in this effort. And as you heard, the Board of Supervisors has adopted a resolution that water from this project will not be used for industrial cooling water purposes, and that is also written into the DEQ withdrawal permit. To meet those projected water supply needs, the county has evaluated a wide range of alternatives to find a solution for their long-term water needs. Among those options, the Rappahannock River is the only feasible option. This is the only viable solution to meet the county's long-term needs. You heard a little bit about the project overview. The river intake on the Rappahannock River in the northern portion of the county. Water will be pumped through a raw water pipeline down to the Carmel Church area, where it will be treated and distributed to users throughout the county. Relative to the size of the river and the flow rates in the river, this intake is relatively small. It will withdraw on average only 0.5% of the water flowing through the river, leaving 99.5% of the river, of the water in the river for all other beneficial uses. And during any periods of drought, the county has a drought management plan, and the DEQ permit requires limitations of withdrawals during any declared drought periods to minimize impacts on the river during those critical time periods. You've heard from Mr. Johnson about the intake design itself that's designed to minimize impacts on the river. There will be a tunnel constructed out into the river to minimize impacts to the shoreline and keep the intake structure itself as small as possible. This intake will use the most protective screen technology available with 1 millimeter wedge wire screens. And the county's even going above and beyond the DWR guidelines for intake velocities, and the design you've seen here will result in a maximum velocity of only 0.1 feet per second, again exceeding the permitted requirements and state guidelines for fisheries protection. We've worked closely with the Virginia Institute of Marine Science throughout this process. One question that was raised during the application is how might the operation of this intake impact fish eggs and larvae in the river? We worked with VIMS to conduct a 3D hydrodynamic model with particle tracking to simulate the flow of fish egg particles through the water column. They looked at 15 species of fish over 20 years of historical data throughout the entire tidal Rappahannock River. They ran a number of different scenarios, and the maximum withdrawal amounts resulted in up to 0.57% of particles in contact with the screens, and the protective screen design would further minimize mortality. So VIMS concluded that the current design of the intake has comparatively low impacts on the ichthyoplankton in this estuary.
You need to start wrapping it up.
Okay, last slide. Effects on river salinity is another question that was raised. As water is withdrawn from the tidal river, how might that impact salinity levels downstream for other users? Again, VIMS modeled this. You can see in these graphs there's no visible difference in salinity levels by this relatively small withdrawal. VIMS concluded here that the intake will not cause significant changes in the salinity distribution. The county's studied this extensively over a period of many years, making sure that every effort is taken to minimize impacts on the river. We feel that this project will provide that while balancing the resources of the river itself and the county's needs for municipal water supply. This will help to reduce long-term reliance on groundwater and meet the county's future needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Mr. White?
In Caroline County, when this area this is going to serve, what kind of quantities do farmers take out of the ground for their crops? Does anybody know that?
It's an excellent question. We know that that water is used from the river itself, where the water is fresh, as well as from groundwater wells in the area for agriculture. And it is important to protect, with this project, to protect groundwater resources for many other uses of groundwater throughout Eastern Virginia. Those aquifers are connected by the county being proactive in reducing reliance on groundwater. It will help to preserve groundwater for farmers and other groundwater uses throughout Eastern Virginia.
So farmers do take it out of the road as well?
That's correct.
Do they have to have a permit, or they just drop a hose over and take it out?
They are not required to have a permit at lower levels of withdrawal. That's something that has been coordinated with DEQ in the planning and permitting of this study.
Harris?
I had a question about the withdrawal rate. So it's 0.25 feet per second. How do you ensure that it doesn't exceed that level?
Sure. The raw water pump station that withdraws water from the river will have flow meterings to make sure that the maximum withdrawal rate never exceeds the maximum permitted amount of 9 million gallons per day. And then the size of the intake screens is set such that the velocity cannot possibly exceed that threshold.
So as a follow-up, sir,
Please.
is there any kind of mechanism to shut that off if it does exceed that?
It would be designed such that it could not exceed it, but certainly the county would have real-time monitoring of those flow rates. If somehow it did, that would be immediately caught.
Okay, thank you.
Rustin?
Probably something along the lines of some sort of software stop or something that's probably would kick that out. But the, on the one slide, water supply alternatives, you have a list of, and it just says not feasible. I mean, what was the reason? Why aren't, just a question, I mean, it's easy, drop a hose over, drop a line over into the Rappahannock and just start sucking water up to the rates of 9 million gallons a day. Really, that's 9 million gallons a day in 2038, well, you have it forecasted out, right? You're not looking for that today, you're looking at for future. Why weren't any of these other feasible? Was this just, and I'm just gonna, as I kind of address some of the comments that I see even my own thoughts, was this just the easiest, more economical way? And why aren't other counties in the same region doing the same thing? I mean, how can we only in Caroline County find this the most reasonable way? Help me out there.
Sure, I'd say on part of that first, you mentioned other counties. You know, this is a trend throughout Eastern Virginia with the Eastern Virginia Groundwater Management Area. Other localities have been seeking tidal river withdrawals. The commission has permitted others for New Kent County, Prince George County, Chesterfield County. So this is not a unique circumstance for counties in Eastern Virginia historically reliant on groundwater. Joey can speak to some of these as well. With these alternatives, there's a combination of challenges between insufficient yield from some of the other rivers, complexity and water quality challenges with the Potomac River, and just insufficient water availability to meet those needs. The Rappahannock River is the only surface water source capable of supplying the county's projected needs.
Right, and that borders the county, so I mean, that's easy. Potomac River wouldn't be so easy. You're gonna have to come across 2 counties potentially to get there, depending on where you're at, but that's.
So we actually went through our feasibility study on each one of these. It's not just that we looked at it very high. We actually met with Hanover County as well as Spotsylvania County. And all those meetings included our chair and vice chair, as well as staff, county administrator, and the same like parts with both localities. And we went through the process of how much they could provide to the county, and what could they do. And they've also went as far as even provide cost estimates.
And that's as far as getting into their own water supply.
Correct, to be able to use their water, which they permitted, like Fredericksburg's got 20 million gallons a day on the Rappahannock River that they have. And then
That's key information, because that's back to a question I asked earlier. Like, who else is doing this? And, you know, to address some of the other comments, how is this gonna have an effect potentially for a small portion of Westmoreland that surrounds or borders the Rappahannock? It's Lancaster County, Essex, Middlesex County. If they were to get on board, as those counties are going increasingly increase, maybe not by 2038 by the rate that you guys are, but over time, if they were to drop into the Rappahannock, how much is that going to play effect long-term on just the whole thing if you got 4 or 5 more counties trying to do the same thing later down the road, or is it going to hurt them? Did anybody look at that?
Yeah, so, you know, we followed everything that we were outlined and requested to do for all of our studies. So we didn't specifically look at that. We looked at what is existing and how does our permit impact that? So in the future, just as we had to do, they would have to look at the impacts currently with everybody on the system and then what their impact would do. So that was done as part of that.
I mean, I guess that's more along the lines of a DEQ, more or less assessment, right? And so I didn't want to go down a rabbit trail. I just, in my own mind, as being someone that lives on the northern neck, that I'm watching the area grow, and you guys are growing substantially, especially up on your western end of the county, right? The whole eastern part of your county is 77,000 acres of Army territory, right? Which I appreciate too. But how long-term effect down the road, I mean, I'm just curious. I probably shouldn't even go any further on it because that's a DEQ-related item as far as looking at that sort of assessment. But all your other actions or alternatives.
We did. We looked at the North Anna River. Hanover County's already got all the allocations that you can pull from that, so that became infeasible. We looked at possibly doing a collector system on the Mattaponi River. However, there wasn't enough water flow through there to be able to do that. We looked at a collector system of actually drilling a cistern well and running out lines on the Rappahannock River so we wouldn't be pulling directly from the river. That turned out not to be feasible. So when we went through each one of those, there were reasons. We've actually done studies on all those. We've got it in our master plans of notes and everything that we've submitted as part of our permit of why we couldn't get water from Spotsylvania County, who also has a partnership with Stafford and the city of Fredericksburg. Hanover is with Henrico and the city of Richmond. So knowing that both of those, all of them have their intakes that are serving their locality. So we're kind of caught right in the middle of both of those.
Understood. Nobody wants to go thirsty.
That's right.
And every human being should have the right to some good drinking water at the end of the day. You guys are looking out for your county. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Anything else? Mr. White?
So one of the comments in the back, it says, "The public water supply is for human consumption and shall be considered the highest priority." Is that what this is being used for, as human consumption?
Yes, sir. So Caroline County has removed any industrial cooling out of our permit completely. The Board of Supervisors has also adopted an ordinance that will not allow any, whether it's a well or whether intake water, to be used for any public water for industrial cooling for data centers. That's been completely taken off the table and removed.
How they gonna cool the data centers?
Electricity and a lot of it.
And I think there's some legislation coming around that's
Yes,
going to
sir.
direct them to that.
Anything else from the board and questions for the applicant? All right, thank you. You may be called back up later.
Will we have a chance to respond to any
You will.
comments? Thank you.
All right. now be taking public comment on this, and it is public comment. There's 3 minutes per commenter. We do not pull minutes here. How many are here to speak on this proposed permit? Please raise your hand. Okay, we'll do this individually. We don't have a mass group. So whoever would like to come up first to the podium, please approach. Don't be shy. There you go, Brent.
Why not start the party?
You can lead. You can lead. All right. Good morning, sir.
Morning.
All right. You know the drill. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you provide will be the truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
State your name.
Brent Hunsinger.
All right. And there'll be 3 minutes on the clock when you want to begin.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, members of the commission, my name is Brent Hunsinger. I am with Friends of the Rappahannock. Virginia has always been thought of as a water-abundant state with adequate supplies of freshwater resources for all beneficial users. However, this idea is now being challenged due to changes in precipitation patterns, due to climate change, increased demand for water resources, in water-intensive industries such as data centers, and uncertainty around unpermitted water intake owners, and a lack of coordinated river basin-based water supply planning. Our groundwater reserves are dwindling. Right now, we're in the worst drought since 1941. We have had the lowest flows in the Rappahannock this spring ever on record for this time of year. In a letter from Randy Owen to Caroline County on June 20th, 2020, quote, "As you know from our past meetings, VMRC remains very concerned about the recent increases in requests for intakes from the tidal reaches in the Commonwealth. These areas provide critical habitat for spawning anadromous and resident fish. Our anadromous fish species have been and continue to experience depleted stocks. Coupled with the existing grandfathered intakes, we are growing increasingly concerned about the collective impacts these intakes have on our tidal freshwater reaches." In a letter from VIMS to Claire Gorman from MRC and you, Mr. Grist, when you were at DEQ, model results demonstrate that the proposed intake will likely be responsible for only minor increases in the mortality of fish eggs and larvae. However, mortalities of aquatic fauna due to surface water intakes occur throughout the Chesapeake Bay, and neither data nor modeling exist that can provide a perspective on this intake's added effect on total system mortality. Although presently unavailable, we consider it to be in the best interest of the Commonwealth to pursue a comprehensive assessment of cumulative surface water intakes. These data would provide the foundation of balancing the societal needs for tidal freshwater with respect to the overall bay health and bay-based fisheries economy. Turns out this study that was quoted, it was funded last year, thanks to the General Assembly. It's going to be due to us in the fall of 2028. This study will have the results of fish mortality and salinity impacts on the Rappahannock, the James, and the York River. It will also potentially look at the impacts from salinity to agriculture, seafood, and wetland habitats. Why would we not wait 2 years until we have the results of a study that we have funded that gives us a comprehensive assessment of what these impacts will be? There's a little bit more background. There's a SJ25 groundwater study that the governor's administration for 8 months has not released. We're continue to wait. 8 months overdue for the Eastern Virginia groundwater management area. DEQ is working on an informal work group for unpermitted intakes. 80% of the water in Virginia that is withdrawn is unpermitted. There will soon be a NORA, hopefully, that DEQ will issue for that. There are multiple impacts that we don't understand for cumulative impacts on reclaimed water systems. Right now, DEQ does not even have a definition.
You can tell the red light.
Thank you, of significant impacts. We urge you to please defer this permit for 2 years until we have those studies done and have a better picture of what the impacts are to our water resources.
Don't go anywhere yet. There may be a question for you. And just for your record, what you read, I have right here in front of me, literally. I'll be reading line by line. Any questions for the speaker? None? All right.
I do.
Okay, Mr. President.
Bring him back
That's why I
up.
said, don't go away.
He ran to the chair too quick, so get you a few extra steps. You referenced this study. Can you elaborate? Because you did a good job getting out some information there in a 3-minute span. The study that you're doing, how is it funded?
Yes, sir. So the study was funded in General Assembly 2025 for $800,000 was allocated for the Virginia Institute of Marine Science to study the cumulative effects of surface water intakes on fish, eggs, and mortality, and really, they call it water quality, but it's upriver salinity migration in the middle parts of the river that we're seeing, especially Westmoreland, Essex, Lower Caroline, Lower King George. We don't have rainfall, so the farmers need to withdraw from the river, and they can't do that right now because it's so salty. And I'll leave it to other people to talk about the impacts that go on with that if they choose to. But just know there's a lot of things happening with water resources and water quantity in the Commonwealth right now, and this permit just so happens that it's probably a canary in the coal mine for some.
Any other questions for speaker? Appreciate it, Mr. Hunsinger. Who would like to speak next? Yes, sir, please approach.
I have some documents that,
Hand to the bailiff. Are these for the record for us, because we will keep them?
yes.
Okay,
Can
thanks.
I explain what that is briefly? There are folders there for each member of the commission. There are 9 copies or 10 copies in there.
Before you get started, let me get your name. I'm going to swear you in. I'm going to get your name for the record, okay? Do you solemnly swear testimony you provide today will be the truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
State your name for the record.
My name is Hill B. Welford Jr.
Yes, sir.
I'm owner of a property on the Rappahannock, a little bit below Leedstown and above Tappahannock, so I'm in that freshwater brackets area.
Yes, sir. 3 minutes, please.
I'm also appearing today, though, not just as a property owner, but as a member of the Essex County Conservation Alliance, and I'm a director, and I'm speaking on that organization's behalf. That organization has many members on both sides of the river, including the downriver counties, but also Caroline and also Westmoreland and Essex and Richmond County. The lower Rappahannock is really what we represent. Now, I would like to say something to you briefly. I really think data centers is the elephant in the room here. And when you talk about what's going on, the reason Caroline needs an intake, it's not for just drinking water. And you look at the profiles, you look at the projections, you look at what's in your materials, and you will see that those projections are largely about data centers. Now, this statement that you've heard that the river water won't be used for industrial cooling, that's a brand new statement, of course. It's in the revised permit. It wasn't in the permit during the X number of 4 years while this thing was being processed, and we kept saying that this was about data centers. And nobody would ever acknowledge it until sometime in 2024 when we saw these 3 massive data centers that Caroline was proposing. And they were seeking up to 4.5 to 5 million gallons of water per day. Now, when you take that away, and I don't know how you take it away. I know there's a closed loop system, but think about this. There are over 50 massive data centers scheduled or under development in the 5 county region. If you look at Spotsylvania and you look at King George and you look at the city of Fredericksburg and you look at the group of counties, including Caroline, we've got over 50 of these hyperscale data centers. And they all are drawing water, all of them are drawing water from the Rappahannock because they all have an intake to draw water from the Rappahannock. So when we are talking about this, we're talking about the quantity of water that is being withdrawn. And I will say to you, with all due respect, I don't think DEQ knows the quantity of water that is being withdrawn. I don't think this organization, BMRC, knows, because there are non-disclosure agreements by the data centers with the counties. And unless you have pierced those non-disclosure agreements and actually gotten a precise number of how many gallons, in fact, are going to be used through the various intakes that we have, now what we've got is an expansion of data centers in this region. It is changing rural Virginia. It is changing scenic Virginia. The Rappahannock is a scenic river. So what I would hope you would do is recognize that there is a need on the part of the General Assembly, there is a need on the part of this agency, there's a need on the part of DEQ to share with the public, but first you have to find out how much water is in fact being withdrawn. One final comment, if I could.
Yes, sir, please.
These permits that all of these counties have are 15-year permits. They go out, in Caroline's case, to 2040. They don't need the water now. They don't need the water at a 2040 level. If you look at the materials on the projections, you will see that even when you get to 2033 or 2035, it's not 9.0 million gallons per day. And what we would ask is, let's consider something innovative. Let's look at stepped-up, graduated withdrawals. Don't take the water that's unneeded, that's more than you need, because we know where that's going. That's going to data centers. And you know the data centers are there. You know it can't come out of the groundwater. So where is it coming from? It's coming from the river. And the Rappahannock is only one of the tidal rivers that have these freshwater stretches that are so critical to the fish, the spawning, the shad, the herring. One thing I would like to quickly say, if I could.
Please.
I realize I've extended it. The time limits on the construction. They say, okay, we will be very careful about what we're doing during the construction. But what about during the operation? The operation of the intakes. That's when the impingement and the eggs get killed. That's the highest degree of mortality. And if you go back to what Vim said, and you have it in the materials that we've handed up, read that. It says cumulative intake. Cumulative analysis of the cumulative intakes is necessary. We recommend it. And the EQ did not accept that. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Don't go anywhere. Any questions from the board? All right, thank you, sir. Appreciate your comment. Who's next? Yes, ma'am, please. Good morning. Swear you in. Do you solemnly swear testimony you provide today will be the truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
State your name for the record.
My name is Alana Hutka.
You representing yourself or an organization?
The Rappahannock Tribe.
Right, that's great. Thank you for being here. You have 3 minutes, please.
Thank you. Hello and thank you to the members of the commission. My name is Alana Hutka and I am a representative of the Rappahannock Tribe, a sovereign nation within the boundaries of the Commonwealth of Virginia. The Rappahannock Tribe is a federally recognized and state-recognized tribe with treaty rights dating back to the Treaty of Middle Plantation of 1677. The tribal government operates a service area of King and Queen, Caroline, Essex, and King William counties. Additionally, the tribe holds lands in King and Queen, Richmond, Essex, and King William counties. Today, we bring to you our concern regarding how this permit will affect treaty rights. The Treaty of Middle Plantation, in part, protects the tribe's right to fish, oyster, and gather. By protecting this right, the architects of the treaty implicitly protected water quality, quantity, and aquatic habitat. The tribe has expressed concern over the implications of this permit on the Rappahannock River and its treaty-protected species. Particularly through public comment, we have noted impacts to blueback and alewife herring and wild rice. As this permit moves forward, we are reiterating these concerns. We wish to draw attention to unknown impacts of surface water withdrawals, and we can appreciate that drinking water needs must be met and that groundwater resources are being overdrawn. However, we object to this intake structure for 2 main reasons. The first reason is that Caroline County must await the Virginia Institute of Marine Sciences study and recommendations regarding cumulative water intake impacts. This study was ordered by the General Assembly given the mounting pressures on surface water withdrawals. Additionally, VMRC in the permit package has stated its concern with cumulative water intakes. The second reason we are opposed to this permit is that there are unknown impacts to treaty-protected species which must be considered as in-stream beneficial uses by the tribe. A recent circuit court decision threw out DEQ's motion to dismiss the Rappahannock Tribe's claims of treaty violations and reserved rights violations in the agency decision to issue the permit. This decision indicates the need for agencies like DEQ and VMRC to consider tribal rights when issuing permits. Once again, thank you for your time and consideration. We respectfully request that VMRC deny the permit numbered 2020-0514.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Sina, thank you very much. I appreciate having you here. Anyone would like to speak on this matter? Ma'am, please. Good morning. sworn in when you're ready. Okay. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you provide will be the truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
State your name for the record.
My name is Tammy Heath, and I am the Mattaponi Indian Tribe Environmental Director,
Welcome.
and
Glad-
speaking on behalf of the tribe as well.
Perfect. Welcome. Glad to have you here. 3 minutes, please. Go ahead.
My name is Tammy Heath, the Environmental Director for the Mattaponi Indian Tribe and Reservation, and I am speaking on behalf of the tribe, Tribal Council, and the Mattaponi Environmental Department in strong opposition to the Caroline County's proposed surface water withdrawal and interbasin transfer permit. The Mattaponi Indian Reservation was confirmed in 1658, making it one of the oldest Native American reservations in the nation. Our name, Mattaponi, meaning River of High Banks, reflects our identity as the people of the river. The Mattaponi River is not just a waterway to us, it is the foundation of our culture, traditions, subsistence, and way of life. For generations, our people have depended on this river for food, cultural practices, and spiritual connection. Species such as shad, catfish, and rockfish are deeply tied to our tradition, diet, and heritage. Any threats to the river as its direct threat to our people or our cultural survival. This proposed project would withdraw large amounts of water from the Rappahannock River and discharge treated water used for industrial use and residential development purposes into the Mattaponi River. This project raises serious concerns regarding contaminations, salinity increases, habitat degradations, thermal pollutions, flooding, erosion, and long-term ecosystem damage. The Rappahannock River is a salinity-influenced river system. Moving water from a salinity river into the Mattaponi River creates significant risks of introducing pollutions that creates persistence in sediments, fish, and wildlife for decades. Additional industrial treatment chemicals, including biocides, mercury, dioxins, and phthalates, may also enter the system, proposing long-term threats to environmental quality, aquatic resources, and human health. The Mattaponi River is a predominantly freshwater system, and even a slight increase in salinity could damage sensitive habitats, wetlands, submerged vegetations, fisheries, and agriculture areas. Climate change and sea level rise are already increasing salinity intrusions, and this project could make those impacts significantly worse. Warmer discharged water would also reduce oxygen levels and disrupt spawning cycles for culturally and ecological important species, including American shad, river herring, and ongoing sturgeon restoration efforts. The proposal also raises concerns regarding drought conditions and reduced water flows. The Rappahannock River already experiences seasonal droughts, stressed, and has been identified as one of the Americans' most endangered rivers. Additional withdrawals during low flow conditions could further harm fisheries, habitats, and overall ecological balances. Another major concern is that the studies and modeling supporting this permit are incomplete and rely heavily on outdated data. Simplified modeling approaches and future monitoring rather than comprehensive baseline analysis before approval. The current river does not adequately evaluate cumulative impacts, long-term climate conditions, contaminant transport, salinity migration, or ecosystem level changes over time. We are so deeply concerned about the lack of meaningful tribal consultation throughout this whole process. Notification alone is not consultation. Tribal nations must be engaged through true government-to-government consultation regarding impacts to cultural significant ways, fisheries, subsistence resources, and sacred areas. The Mattaponi and the Rappahannock Rivers are central to our identity, stewardship practices, and cultural traditions. The proposed discharge located at Polecat Creek also presents concerns regarding increased flooding and shoreline erosion in areas already experiencing environmental stress. Given the significant unanswered questions and potentially irreversible impacts associated with this project, we strongly believe additional independent studies and comprehensive environmental reviews must occur before any permit decision moves forward. The risk to water quality, fisheries, agriculture, ecosystems, tribal rights, and cultural survival are too great to ignore. Once rivers are damaged, restoration is extremely difficult
You'll
and
need to
not
start wrapping
impossible.
it up.
The Chief and Tribal Council and the Mattaponi Indian Tribe and Reservation fully support these comments and fully respect to oppose this permit. Thank you.
Thank you. Don't run off, just in case you have questions. Any members of the board like that question? Not saying it. Thank you for being here. Anyone else wishing to speak? Yes, sir, come forward. Good morning.
Good morning.
Swear in. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you provide will be the truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
State your name for the record.
My name is Jeff Seeley. I am the Caroline County Board of Supervisor from the Bowling Green District. Of particular importance to the town of Bowling Green is a new water source. Currently, our gross alpha levels in the water are twice the legal limits set by the state for drinking water. Every well drilled in and around the town have had as much as 5 times the legal limit. For unknown reasons, wells outside of the town, in the county, and actually in Fort Hill do not have this dilemma, but they do. This drinking water permit is very important in that the amount of water the town can actually withdraw from the aquifer has been set at a cap limit. And I believe that in the future, they're probably going to reduce those limits to everybody that's in the aquifer. And as they do that, other sources are going to be very, very important. So I am here in support of this permit and hope that you all will do the same. And for the record, I was part of the board that actually withdrew the industrial water that was actually in the permit. So it is something that the board took action on, is very serious about.
Any questions for the speaker? Seeing none. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak on this matter? Seeing none. Before I bring up the applicant for rebuttal, I'm going to ask them, since y'all have been quoted quite a bit today, if y'all would like to provide any comments. As you do serve as our scientific advisors.
Lyle Varnell, Virginia Institute of Marine Science. No comments, Mr. Commissioner, just I can answer questions if there are any that are needed.
Do we have any questions you want to ask Mr. White?
One of the proposals, the applicants just talked about the Mattapony withdrawal and the discharge into that. And that really wasn't discussed much here. The Mattapony, where is it going in? What's the water temperature that goes in? What's the quantity that's being dumped into the river? Where is it? What's the water temperature? Can you elaborate a little bit on what's going on there?
No, Mr. White, I cannot answer those specific questions. Others here may be able to answer that, but what I can tell you from the VIMS side of this equation is that we were aware of that potential. We were approached by DEQ quite a while ago and asked, could this be modeled and could you model it? We gave the affirmative on that, but it never went forward after that. We only do what is requested of us. We don't take the initiative to insert ourselves in an issue or any element of an issue. So that was never forwarded by DEQ for us to look at. So that's where we are with that. We had no involvement in that part of this issue.
But that language is all through this that y'all are asking us to consider, and we really don't have much information on it.
Yeah, Mr. White, that is pursuant to the DEQ permit, the Virginia Water Permit. That's under their authority and under ours. What you're asking about, that's a DEQ issue, not an MRC issue. However, Lyle, since it has been brought up, could you give an update on that study involving surface water intakes that's been quoted here, is supposedly going to be available by 2028?
Certainly, we're in the process. That's a large study, and it takes into account all tidal waters in Virginia, except the Seaside Eastern Shore, just in Chesapeake Bay proper, and the tributaries. There's a lot of data that are needed for that. There's a lot of setup of what's the grid used in the hydrodynamic modeling for that. We had a lot of that to start with, but we are working with DEQ to get all intakes of specific locations for those depths. We are also working to get bathymetries, more advanced and detailed bathymetries that are very accurate, because that's important in our modeling to do that. We usually When there is an intake, VMRC requests, that we request and VMRC requests that those detailed bathymetries be provided by the applicant or their agent. They always usually have those anyway from development of the project. But those are very critical in our hydrodynamic modeling and the detail around the intake, which is so critical. So we're going through and getting all the data that can be put into this while we're working on the development of the detailed grid and the scale of each grid cell that we need for this process, and the data from DEQ, which is somewhat challenging for things such as the agricultural intakes because they only used when necessary and only used wherever they are needed, maybe not all in one place at all one time. So there are going to be some challenges, but we're going to be very accurate with what we have. And you know, it may be near maybe the end of 2027 that we have some preliminary data. If we can get our input data and grid structure set up when we expect to. Is that good?
No,
Any further?
exactly. You know, it's good to have that update for the board. Mr. Erskine.
Lyle, I want to follow up on that, if you don't mind. Two questions. First one, with the study that's being done, is it actually specifically taking into account this area that's being proposed with this project?
Every tidal square foot in Virginia, it's going to incorporate, yes, and every intake that we have information on.
Okay. And as a follow-up, the project, my understanding, is cumulative impacts of water withdrawal or something to that regard. Are you going to, would VIMS be providing recommendations within that study? Future recommendations of how withdrawals may take place?
Those model results and the data coming from this assessment of the intakes will be used for future. We will not just segue into recommendations based on this. We're going to show you the scale, the location, what's been brought up about this study versus this intake. The study will be able to look at scale and local effects, such as the Upper Rappahannock. You know, there's not some intakes in Virginia have. Well, there's one that has just under 1 billion gallons per day. So if you look at the scale of things, that's why we've always asked for a comprehensive review, because there are some very large water withdrawals that Mr. Griss from his previous professional life can tell you.
That keeps getting brought up. Let's leave that outside.
Trying to deflect this. But anyway.
No, you're on this podium, not me.
So we'll take that into account, and we can do, you know, put it into small regional, intra-regional, local effects, and what might be the scale of an impact in a particular area. So we're not going to just look at it from there's this impact, and every intake is responsible for the whole impact. So we can parse that out when we have the final model results from this, and from that we will let the state and the localities take that and plan and ask questions as they would like.
All right, thank you.
That's our role.
No, that's good. Anything else? Mr. White?
So this permit's for 9 million, not I've read in here through, there's some 13.8 million language in there.
Correct.
Is that, can it go up to that, or is 9 the cap?
9 is the cap.
9 is the cap. But
I'll have the applicant back up here in a minute to answer that question directly.
Correct. But I think, if I may, Mr. Commissioner, we did model at the 13.9.
Right.
So anything, and the 0.25, the way we set up the grid, anything that is less than that will reduce the impacts that was shown from the model. And as you've heard today, which was new to us, that they were going to do a 0.1 foot per second through slot velocity. That we have also said in the past that if you can reduce your through slot velocity, that is a mitigating factor for intakes, because that reduces the zone of attraction around the intake. So say a larvae or an egg that is X amount of feet away will not feel that pull toward the intake. If the lower the through slot velocity, the smaller that area is that could be that an egg or a larvae can be attracted to the intake for entrainment, impingement, or even contact mortality.
I'll appreciate it. Thank you, sir. Okay, the applicant want to approach? I'll offer you time for rebuttal. Were you promised amount of time so I can see? No? Okay, good, you get 3 minutes.
So, would you like us to answer questions first that were brought up, or apart from?
Do your rebuttal, then we'll get to the questions.
We'll have Roger Arnold do the rebuttal, and then I'll be glad to answer some of the questions that we have.
Thank you for the chance to respond today. There were several items that we would like to further address in this response. Firstly, as you've heard, the county has a water need. This is because of the growth in the county that they've been experiencing, as well as the water quality issues associated with gross alpha in the groundwater that is a direct public health concern. This project will address both of those needs. You've heard a lot of discussion about cumulative impacts. We acknowledge the state's desire to do a broader study of cumulative impacts in the state, and we see that's very important for the states to manage water resources for a variety of uses. We're here today to speak specifically on Caroline County's proposed intake construction, and this has been designed in a way to minimize impacts to the river, to use the most protective screen technology available at a intake velocity, as Lyle mentioned, that exceeds guidelines and permitted limits. As part of the cumulative impacts comments, you heard reference to grandfathered withdrawals, you heard reference which are unpermitted withdrawals. There's a big contrast there. Those intakes do not have protective screens like this project. They do not have permitted limits and controls on the withdrawal amounts like this project. So this has been studied and permitted in such a way that will have minimal impacts on the river. You've seen the results of the VIMS studies there. Lyle also mentioned those other large intakes of tens or hundreds of millions of gallons per day. Those are appropriate items to assess as part of a cumulative impact study. This intake is much smaller. Only 0.5% of the water in the river on average would be withdrawn under this project. You heard more concerns about data centers. I think we've said enough on that one. The County Board of Supervisors and the DEQ permit both affirm, as we do here today, that this water is for the county's public water supply, not for industrial cooling purposes. Thank you. We'd be happy to take any other questions.
All right, and you did clarify the question we had. It's capped out at 9.
That's correct.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Ms.
How did you come up with the 9 million that you were going to take out? I've looked at this graph that you've had here and what is used in 23 and what you think in 38. How did you come up with that 9 million?
Sure, excellent question, thank you. That goes back to the county's water demand projections and water supply studies over the years. That's developed based on the county's comprehensive plan. It looks at projected land use throughout the county, and we can evaluate the typical water withdrawal rates for those land uses, whether residential, commercial, et cetera. In general, how much water is needed. This is a standard practice for water utilities like Caroline County as part of their water supply planning. So we look at both average day needs, what are consumers in the county typically using on a day-to-day basis, and then what are the maximum day needs. There's usually some allowance for variations, both lower and higher than that average day withdrawal of 5.1 MGD. So that 9 MGD is a maximum day withdrawal. Based on the DEQ permit, it can only occur infrequently, but accounts for the highest water demands that may occur for a very short time period within the county. Hope that helps.
Mr. President?
I've gotten, there's 277 comments about, somewhere close to that. There's a lot of people in opposition. The only ones that's in here in support of it are either elected or government officials working in Caroline County. Where are the residents that need this water stand? I haven't heard one person say anything about saying, hey, I know there's a lot of wells. This speaks to a portion of your county. Those who are living in the Bowling Green and probably the Ruther Glen areas and things of your county, Ladysmith, are probably the ones that are benefit from this. And where are they this morning saying, please give me drinking water?
I would say that they participated as part of the county's comments and to put that forward for staff to bring that to your attention in our application of that need for that. You know, that we didn't go out and try to get people to show up just to support the county, saying, hey, come speak on the behalf of the county. I think the residents have put that on the burden of the county staff and our engineers to show you that need to you.
I guess there's two ways of looking at that. Thank you.
Anything else from the board? Seeing none. Thank you both.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Matters before the board. Discussion you'd like to have?
Slow in response, Mr. Commissioner.
There's a lot of thoughts going on right now.
If I can speak
Please.
to a point of just kind of thinking out loud, and maybe my fellow commissioners and yourself can maybe help me through, or maybe Ben. I just find that there's a lot of studies going on. There's a lot of water withdrawals, and though we think 9 million gallons of water is a lot, it is, in my mind. But in the 1 billion, it's not even, it's a drop in a bucket. But also, you know, I just feel like, are we jumping to a point where we're saying we need water for 2038 to get us there, and over the course of this time, over the next 10 plus years, are we taking into account the studies that are currently going on as far as making a decision, or is this going to? I'm a little confused based on things, the studies that I'm being here quoted that are currently underway, which I respect science and I do respect MEMS. They are our right-hand men and women. Providing us with the data, are we jumping ahead? We're not going to make anything drastic here in a little bit regarding crab seasons based off of we have a study underway. Same way here, we have studies underway that are funded by our state government, by our tax dollars, and what are those studies going to give us? I guess I'm at a position here that I don't know which way to lean, sir. One way or the other. I don't want to see Caroline County residents go without drinking water. Drinking water is obviously crucial. I live in Westmoreland County. I don't have a problem, but I got my own well too, right? These residents, so I respect it and want it, but also don't want to jump ahead. People turning on their tap water today and it's nothing coming out. I mean, is that the kind of emergency we're at? I don't think so. Or there would be people in here saying, please support this. I stand as a resident, need it today. Go ahead, sir. I'm done.
Oh, you're fine.
Yeah.
See, Mr. White.
So one of my concerns was that we got this kind of, we just saw this like a week or so ago, 2 weeks ago. And the DEQ issued their permit in November. And apparently, according to the laws, we have to act on this within 6 months, which is right now. And it says VMRC is required to act on this project at this meeting. This has been confirmed by the Office of Attorney General. So this is a major issue as far as I'm concerned. And give us 1 or 2 weeks to swallow all this stuff that we just dumped in here that we haven't had time to read. I've got issues with it, I really do.
Well, for the record, you did receive the original packet a month ago, right before we postponed this to this month. So it's the same record, except we've had additional public comments that we've received since then. But the actual packet itself is pretty much unchanged unless there was a major change I'm not aware of from staff, and I'm getting hot nods saying no. But I understand your point. It is a lot to digest. I agree with that. Mr. Erskine.
So it's my understanding from all the presentations, I appreciate everybody, including staff, giving a comprehensive review and all the testimony, that our jurisdiction here is for strictly the intake. And there are a lot of other issues that are being brought up and certainly important to this whole aspect. I appreciate that the county is looking to the future here. You have a timeline over several years. Your withdrawal seems to be 5 million gallons per day, and this is going to be 2038 and things like that. So it's looking towards the future. I get that. My concern up here is for the marine resources, and that's why my questions were talking about, the velocity withdrawal and things like that. I think those have been addressed, not only by VIMS, but as well as staff. So I think there's a need here and looking towards the future, and I think the marine impacts have been addressed to the best of their ability. I do see that, fellow commissioners may have a concern over some of the studies that are being there, and I agree they're important studies, and we may learn more from that. So I'm leaning towards an approval, unless I'll wait for other comments from the board.
I'd just like to make the comment that I appreciate everybody's side of where they're coming from, but I do appreciate the planning for the constituents and the people of those counties, because if you don't plan, you will wait and there will be an emergency at some point. And it's taken years of planning, and then to go back and redo what has been done, I think careful consideration has been put into this.
Any other comments from the board? Seeing none. We operate on motions. Mr. Branson.
I move to approve the application.
Okay. Mr. Branson moves to approve the application as presented.
Second.
Okay, second. Sorry.
So what we are approving is 9 million gallons for human consumption only, is that correct?
We are approving the actual construction and placement of the water intake. Mr. Johnson, you want to clarify? Because the water withdrawal is under DEQ.
Yes, DEQ has issued their permit for the amount that's being withdrawn.
Right, we're permitting the structure.
Under 28.2, Chapter 12, this is for the structure.
Okay. So that's what we're approving as the structure. Chief, you want to approach? Please understand I have a motion on the table.
Just want to make sure that this is or is not with the staff recommendations that are listed in the evaluation, which include the time of year restrictions for the mussels and the Nasmus fish.
I'll go to the motion, or this is for the staff recommendation.
To approve staff recommendation.
And the seconder understands that as well.
Yes.
Thank you. Any other discussion on the motion?
I'd just like to say, Commissioner,
Mr.
if I may, is that reason why I support this is I focus on our jurisdictional authority, which is the construction of this water uptake from the Rappahannock River. How the county operates it in the future, well, that's regulated by other people. And there are studies ongoing, and I would dare say that any issue that we've ever had before the commission, since I've been here, of great importance, has always had studies attached and studies ongoing. And I don't think we're ever gonna stop studying this, but I think the county has shown over 20 years of planning that they are looking forward. They have mitigated the issue of the data center with their own resolution as well as DEQ, and that was the major objection I saw in, I don't know how many, 300 and something pages that we read in, before we showed up today. And I think that they've done their due diligence, and our focus is the structure on sub-aquatic state-owned bottomlands.
Fair. Any other comments on the motion? All right, I'm gonna call the question. I will do this as a roll call. Mr. Hand.
Yay.
Mr. Erskine.
Yes.
Mr. Branson.
Yes.
Mr. Headley.
Yes.
Ms. Edwards.
Yes.
Mr. Preston.
Yes.
Mr. White.
Yes.
Unanimous, and it is approved per the staff recommendation. I want to thank everyone that came here today to speak, and the comments are appreciated, and we have everything on the record. All right. Yeah, no problem. taking a brief pause, let the crew get their equipment. And thank you all also for working with us today. Some get left behind.
I thought so, but no.
Okay. It's good for you to check. All right. Item number 7, Thomas Kramer, VMRC, permit application 2025-1966. Please proceed.
Good morning, Commission. Mr. Thomas Kramer is requesting authorization to construct a 34-foot by 16-foot open-sided boathouse above an existing boat lift and a timber access stairway adjacent to an existing statutorily authorized private timber pier serving 2749 West Landing Road, situated along the North Landing River in Virginia Beach. We're here today because this project is protested by an adjacent riparian property owner. The applicant's property is situated along the North Landing River, just north of the confluence of West Neck Creek, which is here, and then leads up to, this part of the river is part of the entrance of the waterway. And then zooming in a little bit more, the applicant's property is highlighted there in blue. This property is in a small residential neighborhood in the Princess Anne subdivision of the southern part of Virginia Beach. Most properties within this subdivision are used agriculturally, with few private residences that are positioned along the waterway. Within this little neighborhood here, we've got about 10 waterfront properties. 9 of those have constructed wharves and piers, including that of the applicant and of the protestant. And then zooming in a little bit further, again, the applicant's property is shown in blue, and the protestant property is shown by the red star to the south. Here's a plan view drawing of the proposed conditions submitted by the applicant's agent. It shows a few different things here. So we've got the existing timber pier that was authorized back in 2021, outlined with this dash line. All the new proposed components are with the diagonal pattern there, include this second boat lift and boathouse. Only the components highlighted in yellow are before you today, as the rest of the components have been authorized by statute pursuant to section 28.2, 1203.85 of the Code of Virginia. And then again, just a little bit closer plan view showing the access stairs and the proposed boathouse over the existing lift. Again, everything else has been authorized. These are cross-sections, again, provided by the applicant's agent. This is an in view of the proposed boathouse and a side view of the stair profile. Mean low water is highlighted in blue. And then again, a side view of the proposed pier, or excuse me, the existing pier and proposed boathouse. Mean low water again in blue. And then the next few slides will be photos from the applicant's property. This is a photo of the existing pier as it exits the uplands. And then off to on the left-hand side is where the proposed boathouse will go. And then on the right-hand side is where the proposed timber stairs will be positioned adjacent to the northern side of the existing fixed deck platform. These photos are taken from the protestant's property. The left top photo is from the pier, as well as the bottom photo looking north towards Mr. Kramer's existing pier. And then this photo right here is taken closer to the residential dwelling, looking west and northwest. You can see the existing lift piles there, which is where the boathouse will be positioned. As required by the code, the adjacent property owners were notified of the request to construct the open-sided roof structure and the timber access stairs. We did not receive any comments from the northern adjacent property owner. However, we have spoken with and met with Mr. Amat, the southern adjacent property owner, multiple times regarding his concerns, including at his property. Per his submitted correspondence and discussions with him, the stated predominant concern appears to be with the exempt fixed finger pier that will be constructed around that existing lift beneath the boathouse, and the potential privacy concerns that arise from its use. Mr. Amat also feels that the commission should consider and regulate the entire pier structure, including the existing and proposed portions that are already authorized. Mr. Amat has his own private pier equipped with a dual-slipped permitted boathouse and is currently the only nearby property in this neighborhood of roughly 10 waterfront properties that has a roof structure. Mr. Kramer's, if approved, would be the second. In this case, Mr. Kramer's proposed open-sided boathouse would have qualified for the statutory authority outlined in code had it not been protested by the adjacent property owner. We have also received approval by the City of Virginia Beach Waterfront Operations Office and the Army Corps of Engineers. Both of those approvals are in your packets. In this case, and in keeping with past decisions, we feel that this type of private open-sided roof structure is an appropriate way for a riparian property owner to access state-owned submerged lands. Additionally, we also feel that the timber access stairs are a minimal and reasonable addition to the existing pier. The remaining portions of the pier, again, have all been authorized already pursuant to the previously mentioned code section. And then accordingly, after considering all of the factors, the project drawings, the merits of the project against the concerns expressed by the protestant, and after considering all factors outlined in section 28.2.1205 of the Code of Virginia, staff is recommending approval of both the boathouse and the timber access stairs as proposed. I'm available for questions. I know Mr. Kramer is here, and I believe Mr. Amat is also here as well.
Okay, any questions from the board? Mr. Branson?
Yes, Commissioner, thanks. Tiffany, thank you. My question is more like a process question regarding JPAs. The protestant brought up a comment in his protest regarding partial approval by staff of a JPA, and I understand this JPA included all of the elements, the finger piers, the floating dock, which was statutorily approved last month. It didn't include the boathouse and the floating dock with stairs. Why, if a protestant protests the JPA, why are we not hearing the whole JPA? Instead, there's parts of it taken away. Where does a property owner, adjacent property owners, right to protest in a public forum something that the staff has already approved, but the JPA is still coming to us?
Sure. So before you is just the component of the boathouse and the stairs. The boathouse requires a permit because of the protest as outlined in the code section for private piers and open-sided roof structures. And there are specific criteria and sizing requirements for specific components of piers that if they meet those criteria, they are exempt from permitting. And so when we receive an application that requests multiple components, some of which are exempt, some may not be, we will act on the exempt portions because they do not require permits, and then process the portions that do require permits. So that's why it's split up in this.
Yeah, I understand the sizing and why things have to come in if it's protested, but in this case, the JPA included all of the elements of that project. The drawings that were submitted included all of the elements of that project, but yet here we are today not addressing all elements of that protested application. That's my curiosity. Are we routinely do this? Because I know Mr. Amat submitted another JPA from this past January that wasn't protested, but we ended up hearing the entire JPA.
Yes, so
With similar elements, if I understand
that
correctly.
is a very routine thing that we do. If there are components that are exempt, we let the applicant know that those components are exempt. The application that was referenced in the protest correspondence received by Mr. Amat, from Mr. Amat, was JPA number 252560. That was not a project that I personally worked on, but I did speak with the staff member that did process that, and I did look at those project drawings. That pier exceeded the limits of what was authorized by statute, and therefore the entire pier structure required a permit. It could not be split up separately as in this case. But I will say the majority of piers that we do see have some exempt components that we routinely release ahead of time.
Okay, thank you.
Good. All right. Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Is the applicant present? Wish to speak?
Yes, sir.
Please approach the podium. Swear you in. Solemnly swear testimony you provide today will be the truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
State your name for the record.
Tom Kramer.
All right, Mr. Kramer. You got it.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am requesting the permit. On 5/13/22, I was issued the original pier permit. I conceded to move the pier to the north, away from my neighbor, 18 feet. I moved the 80-foot end from 32 feet to 50 feet from the property line and running parallel to the property line to try and end these hostilities. I did not have to do this. I held an approved permit. I want the roof to protect my boat. I am in the process of reupholstering the cushions for a second time because of the RVs, you know. The roof will be about 14 feet wide. It'll be 36 to 50 feet from the property line. My neighbor has a double wide roof on his pier. I could see his dock from my house and property. I put my granddaughter's play area in the line of sight to offset the view of his dock. My wife is a disabled retired veteran. We need the stairs so she can safely enter and exit the water. Her using a ladder would be inherently dangerous and an accident waiting to happen. The stair will also allow the safe process of entering and exiting canoes and kayaks. There are times when large yachts pass throwing large wakes. When barges go by, it's an amazing how much water they pull out and push back.
Good picture on the screen.
I just feel that I should be able to put the roof on my pier. His house is drastically to the north side near my property line, and that's why he gets a view of my pier. Anybody on the water knows they look at their neighbor's pier. That is part of life, of being on the water. He's mentioning that privacy and the fact that somebody on my dock might be looking back in his house. On 2 occasions, he has admitted to observing myself and my guests in my yard. And I have that on a text message from 7/19/21 and a letter to me, that he was admitting looking in my yard. Now I am installing a privacy fence. I am in the middle of doing that now. And I just feel that I should get this approval. Thank you very much.
Any questions for the applicant? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here wishing to speak in support or opposition of this project? Please approach. Morning.
Morning.
Solemnly swear testimony you provide today will be the truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
State your name for the record.
My name is David Ahmet.
Okay, Mr. Ahmet, you have 3 minutes.
Okay, great. Yes, I feel like I'm largely here today out of a sense of civic responsibility, just to kind of hopefully foster the discussion that Mr. Branson started. I have no expectation of a favorable outcome in this. The applicant's incremental permitting and staff actions have combined to strip away any decision space that the commission had to balance the benefits versus detriments of this project. I understand the staff are hardworking civil servants, and current business practices have probably evolved over the years for what they are today for good reasons. But I want to share my experience in hopes that it'll continue the discussion amongst the commission regarding the rights of APOs and how the staff interprets and implements applicable statutes. So I generally support this project. The applicant is great with kids, loves towing them on the boat. When I'm 71 years old, I hope I'm wakeboarding and skiing the way he is. My primary objection to this, though, is it's not really about the roof. It's do I like the roof? No, of course not. But my main objection has always been the finger pier and the manner in which it creates a persistent, close-in, eye-level, direct line of sight into the primary bedroom of my home. This isn't Linkhorn Bay, this is rural, across the river is protected wetlands. There's no houses here. No such detriment currently exists, and this detriment is wholly avoidable through site plan adjustment, and the applicant would have the exact same level of riparian access and recreational benefit. The detriment of the finger pier is distinctly different from that which way passing boat would have. Like a passing boat, it's moving, there's noise, it's further away. Furthermore, the staff has asserted that they can't regulate upland impacts, and I understand that. VMRC's mandate ends at the shoreline. But it seems like there's a disconnect between legislation and implementation with 28.2.1205, where if the commission can't regulate or can't factor in upland impacts in how they regulate the use of state-owned bottomlands, why does that statute specifically call out that a permit is required if an APO objects to a roof structure? Again, it just seems like there's a disconnect. Also, 1205 specifically calls out that the impacts to adjacent properties when a permit is required should be factored in by the commission. Mr. Branson already touched on the practice of breaking up a JPA into permitted and non-permitted elements. That from an adjacent property owner perspective, that feels improper. Additionally, this should have required, in my estimation, a permit, because statutory exemption is for a pier with a single boat lift. This has 2 boat lifts, but the practice is that if you ask, if it's just one JP at a time, it's not cumulative impact. And I see the red lights on, I'll wrap up. I do have an example of like a potential alternate site layout if interested. The permitting process, the MPN permitting process has allowed construction to surpass commission's authority, and there's already most of the pilings for the roof are already in place. So I can comment on the suitability of the floating docks, but that's really not a concern of mine, but it seems inappropriate, and I yield for questions.
Any questions from the board? Seeing none. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Yes, please. Good morning.
Good morning,
Again.
Commission.
Do you solemnly swear testimony you provide today will be the truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Please state your name for the record.
My name is Lois Elson Kramer. I am Tom Kramer's wife.
Are you also one of the applicants?
I am not an applicant, no.
Okay, proceed.
If I did not put in any of the paperwork.
All right, proceed. 3 minutes, please.
Yes, sir. I would like to reboot what Mr. Amat said about the floating dock. If it's a privacy issue, cannot see in his bedroom, you cannot see anything past the windows. I don't understand why he's so concerned. He's brought that up before in the past, and it needs to be addressed because I believe it is our legal right to have this boat lift. I am a disabled American veteran, retired GS, and
thank you for your service.
Thanks, thank you. And it just doesn't seem appropriate that he's rejecting what we want. And he's been this way since we've actually bought the property. So, and that's all I really have to say. Just wanted your consideration and my aspect on the information given.
Okay, any questions from the board? Seeing none. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Anyone else wishing to speak for or against this project? Seeing none. Matters before the board.
Comment, if I could, sir.
Please, Mr.
This is the
Preston.
worst part about serving the Commonwealth is when you have to deal with neighbors' disputes, and one neighbor maybe should have bought more property in the very beginning than the other. I don't know. But I'd like to make a motion to approve the applicant's application, and based off of staff recommendations for such.
I'll second it.
Second, Mr. White. Okay. I have a motion and a second to approve staff recommendation. Any discussion? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you all very much. Item number 8 will be a public hearing involving Chapter 4 VAC 20-270 pertaining to blue crab fishery. Good morning, Alexa.
Good morning.
Nice to be able to say good morning to fisheries.
I had to check my watch, we're getting close.
I know, I had to make sure of that. You can begin when you're ready.
Good morning, Commissioner, members of the commission. This is my annual briefing on the winter dredge survey and also a public hearing on a proposal to amend Chapter 4 VAC 20-270 pertaining to blue crab fishery to establish season and bushel limits for the 2026-2027 commercial blue crab fisheries and to close the 2026-2027 winter commercial crab dredge fishing season. So as a reminder, the Blue Crab Baywide Winter Dredge Survey is conducted annually jointly by VIMS and the Maryland Department of Natural Resources, has been every year since the winter of 1989-1990. It samples 1,500 random sites from December through March. Their objectives are to describe the size and sex composition of the baywide blue crab population, develop accurate estimates of baywide blue crab abundance, and estimate exploitation and fishing mortality, and evaluate the status of the stock annually. These results are an important tool for managers who have used abundance and exploitation levels to determine what or if management action is needed. These results have been reviewed by the Chesapeake Bay Stock Assessment Committee on May 13th, publicized in a May 18th press release, and presented to the Crab Management Advisory Committee, or CMAC, on May 27th. So here's a summary of the 2026 abundance results. The total crab abundance increased 46% to 349 million crabs, mostly driven by the juvenile population. 2026 ranks 21st highest in the 37 years of the survey. The adult female abundance decreased 25% to 81 million, which is still above the abundance threshold of 72 million crabs, but well below the abundance target of 196 million crabs. The adult male abundance increased 43% to 37 million, and the juvenile abundance increased 121% to 228 million. So here's a look at some of these numbers with context to the survey history. Again, the total abundance of crabs of all ages and sexes in 2026 was 349 million, which is below the geometric mean, the average of 399 million crabs. That is an increase over the last several years. The adult blue crab abundance did decrease, mostly driven by that decrease in the female crabs. There are generally more female crabs than male crabs caught in this survey. As you can see here, this graph has the adult blue crab abundance by sex. You can see that the females decreased. They have over the last several years, unfortunately, but the males did increase. We're not particularly surprised by the decrease in females. If anything, we were surprised by the increase in males due to the overwintering mortality from this year. As I'm sure a lot of you know, it was very cold this year. We had a lot of cold stuns with some of our fish species. So those numbers are reflected in overwintering mortality calculated from the winter dredge survey. Both teams, VIMS and Maryland, calculated the percentage of crabs pulled up already dead in the later months of the survey. Mortality was highest in Maryland, with adult mortalities in the 25 to 30% range. Adult mortality in Virginia was around 10 to 15%. And that's based on sex and age. So as you can see, adult females total was about 11.8% mortality. Adult males were 20.5. I think the main driver of that difference in the higher mortality in the males is that more males are caught in Maryland, where the mortality was higher, and more females were caught in Virginia, where the mortality was lower. So here is adult female abundance against the biological reference points currently being used from the 2011 stock assessment and the 2017 update. So the biological reference points are, we have a threshold of 72 million, that is the red box. Below that, the population is considered depleted. We have a target of 196 million crabs. Above that, the population is considered to be where we want it to be. As we said, unfortunately it decreased this year, but we are still above that threshold. And juvenile abundance is the highest it's been in several years, which we're hoping to see good news coming from that next year. This is, I believe, the 14th highest juvenile abundance in the 37 years of the survey. Here is commercial blue crab harvest from across the bay. We have Virginia in the blue, the Potomac River fisheries in yellow, and Maryland in red. And this does exclude the seaside areas. This is only for harvest from Chesapeake Bay, which is what is sampled by the Winter Dredge Survey. Altogether, harvest decreased 4%, mostly driven by a 7% decrease in Maryland's harvest, while Virginia increased 1% and PRF, the Potomac River Fisheries Commission, reported increased harvest of 3%, for a total of 41 million pounds of blue crabs being commercially harvested last year. Now we're going to look at harvest by sex. The bars have the absolute amount of female harvest in millions of pounds, and the lines represent the percentage of females harvested of that sex by Virginia versus Maryland. So we've long noted the change after 2018, where there's been less of a gap between Maryland and Virginia's share of the female harvest. It used to be, like 70-30 Virginia, Maryland. It's been, 60-20. Last year was even close to 50-50, but Virginia did increase our share in 2025. It looks like Virginia harvested more females than in 2024, and Maryland took fewer. On the other hand, male harvest distribution has stayed fairly constant at about a 70-30 split, and harvest hasn't changed much in the males over the last few years. Another biological reference point we use is the female exploitation rate, which is what percentage of females present in the survey during 1 year are captured by the fishery over the course of that year. So if we're above 37%, we are considered to be overfishing, and we're aiming for that target of about 28%. And in the 2025 fisheries, we were at 29%. So we are not overfishing. Male exploitation rate is not so much a biological reference point. We manage to the females, but we do want to keep an eye on harvest of males. So we have this conservation trigger. Above that, we say we might want to take a closer look at what's happening with male harvest or male abundance. So last year, the male abundance was down and harvest stayed about the same, so the exploitation rate would be expected to increase. But this does not reflect the increase in the number of males that were caught during this winter. That will be looked at next year with this year's harvest. So looking at Virginia's specifically 2025 harvest, which does include now the seaside areas. Virginia harvested 15.9 million pounds of crabs, a 4% increase over 2024. The usual breakdown is about 97% of harvest is by hard crab pots. Somewhere around 3%, 2.7 this year, was from peeler pots, and then 0.1% is all other gears. This resulted in about a dockside value of $36.8 million, which was also a 4% increase. Interestingly, we did see the number of active reported harvesters and trips decrease. Our harvesters decreased 4%, and trips decreased 6%. And you can see that here. The blue bars are our harvest, which you can see increased slightly from 2024 to 2025, but the amount of effort or number of trips decreased. Something we've been looking at over the last few years is the hard crab pot licensing. This is, as you saw, 97% of our harvest. So this kind of gives us a measure of how active the fishery is. And we were down to 54% of eligible licensees reported harvest. So it has been a pretty consistent decline from 2008. So on to discussing our management for the year. Typically, CBSAC, the Chesapeake Bay Stock Assessment Committee, and staff have made recommendations for the upcoming year based on the winter dredge survey results. But we're currently awaiting results on a tool that could change how we make recommendations. So a benchmark stock assessment, benchmark meaning it's incorporating new data sources, new modeling, new assumptions. Past peer review in April 2026. We're currently waiting on a final report. However, that report will be on a model using data through 2023. So the authors of the stock assessment are currently running an update to incorporate data through 2025, which will give us a much better look at how the population is doing at this time. So that update is expected sometime this summer, and then sometime after that, we'll be presenting these results to CMAQ and discussing management response. But like I said, that is not currently available, and while we're waiting on that tool, staff is recommending a status quo, mostly. This includes a closure of the winter dredge fishery and same bushel limits. The only change is in the season dates. Last year, the season ended December 20th. December 20th this year is a Sunday when you're not allowed to crab anyway. And typically, the Crab Management Advisory Committee has recommended ending the season on a Saturday. So we're recommending ending, instead of December 20th, December 19th. But other than that, the most season dates are the same. The bushel limits, when the spring and fall bushel limits begin and end, that would all be the same. Like I said, we're also recommending maintaining the closure of the winter dredge fishery. Historically, a winter dredge season was open from December 1st to March 31st. The winter dredge fishery was closed in 2008 as part of the 34% reduction in effort and new emphasis on conserving female crabs. In 2024, CMAQ asked to revisit the discussion on the winter dredge season, and they ultimately recommended revisiting the dredge closure after the stock assessment results are available. So these are the changes to regulation. In Section 40 season limits, we're advancing the years to 2026 and 2027 and changing the end date to the season from December 20th to December 19th. In Section 51 for the bushel limits, the daily harvest limits, again, advancing the years to 2026 and 2027. And again, changing that closure date this year from December 20th to December 19th. In Section 57 for the crab dredge fishery, advancing the years to close the fishery in 2026, 2027. So staff recommendation is for status quo, to have a similar season and bushel limits as last year. This would be a hard crab pot season of March 17th to December 19th, a high bushel limit from May 16th to October 31st, the seasons for peeler pots and all other gears, April 15th to October 15th, and maintaining the closure of the winter dredge fishery. At their meeting, CMAQ recommended opening the season on March 15th, keeping everything else status quo. And we had one public comment added into your packets today as an addendum in support of status quo. And I can take any questions.
Any questions from the board? Mr. Erskine?
Thanks for the presentation. The benchmark assessment that's completed peer review and is up for a final report, will that likely change the threshold and the target?
That will be in the final report. It could change the target. It could consider different biological reference points altogether. That is something that is an output of the stock assessment and will also be discussed by the Chesapeake Bay Stock Assessment Committee as for what biological reference points coming out of the stock assessment would be appropriate to be managed to.
Okay.
I think it's fair to state, though, we're expecting the reference points to change.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to stay status quo.
Yeah,
So,
thank you.
that's good. Any other questions? All right, seeing none, thank you. Is there anyone here to wishes to speak on this matter and from the public? Seeing no one. Okay, back to the board. Anyone on the board wish to have a discussion on this? I'm going to offer a comment if
I have
not.
maybe a follow-up question.
Sure, go right ahead.
So when the results come out in a final report and decisions are made at the advisory committee level and those kind of things, do we have the ability to make interseason management changes? Or is this, I guess, preclude us from doing anything mid-season? Should we see something in the benchmark assessment that's a concern?
Yes, the commission can change these regulations at any time.
Just with 30-day public hearing, emergency, make it whatever we need to do. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I'd like to actually address that point. Staff's recommendation is definitely a recommendation I endorse. Though I appreciate what the CRAB committee presented as, they would like to see a change in the opening. I think we need to hold status quo. The way this usually works after a benchmark stock assessment is the representatives of Maryland, Virginia, and also Potomac River Fisheries Commission, the three jurisdictions that oversee the bay fishery, get together. And we go through the stock assessment and we kind of come up with an overall bay plan of what we'd like to do. This is how it's worked in the past when we've done benchmarks. And I know the jurisdictions have every intent of getting together as soon as the benchmark is final, all the way out of peer review, and we get the final report plus updated. At that time, what we would do is once we've come together, we'll come back to the board with what we think are options for adjustment, especially if the reference points change. So we wouldn't have to make that as an emergency, to speak to Mr. Erskine's question. I mean, we could do it under a regular advertising procedure. And I think it's the intent of the jurisdictions, based on discussions I've had with my cohorts at that level, is that we're going to try and get a lot of this done this fall so that we can put in place some things for 2027 for the beginning of the year. So that's a little background for your benefit. The last time we had a benchmark was 2012, I believe.
Yes, it came out in 2011.
2011, thank you. I was off by a year, But the jurisdictions are already talking, and once we have all the information in front of us, we're going to have a joint meeting together to talk through it and then be able to come back to our respective bodies to offer some recommendations for 2027. So I just want to give you all that benefit of information. Any other questions, Ms. Gowon? Seeing none, thank you again. That is for the board.
I make a motion to approve staff recommendation.
I have a motion to approve staff recommendation. Second. I'll give it Ms. Edwards today. Spread out the love today. All right, I have a motion and a second to approve staff's recommendation on blue crab fishery. Any discussion? Seeing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Moving on. Recommendation, item 9, funding recommendations from the Recreational Commercial Fishing Advisory Board. Ms. Nelson. Actually get to say good morning to you, too.
Good morning. That's
Yeah, we're
strange.
rolling here.
All right, good morning. These are the applications to our recreational and commercial fishing advisory boards. Our Recreational Fishing Advisory Board advises the Commission on expenditures from our Recreational Fishing Development Fund. They met on June 8th of this year and voted on the recommendations from projects submitted this cycle. They recommended 7 of those projects at this time. We'll be coming back to you in the fall for the remainder of the projects. The fishing event programs that we're able to present at the meeting are presented here, just 3 at this time. Like I said, we'll return to you in the fall with the rest of our fishing event applications once they have a chance to present before the board. In addition, the RFAB voted to recommend 4 of our staff-supported projects, which include our saltwater tournament, our youth angler citation program, our artificial reef program, and our federal assistance or sport fish restoration program. That is the state matching funds to our suite of federal projects. Moving on to our commercial board, they actually met twice this spring. They met in person on March 31st. However, there was no quorum on that time. At that time, we did review one project, had a really great presentation from the PI, and the individual members in attendance recommended funding that project. This is just like the last time I came before you. In that situation, we have reviewed this with council that the individual members can make a recommendation. That's just not technically a board recommendation. They met again virtually on June 1st. At this time, there were a quorum, and reviewed additional proposals. These are the 4 ones that have been reviewed by members of the CFAB for the first one and recommended by the CFAB for the additional 3. They are all different suites of research and programmatic projects. The first is the American Shad. It is the river herring sample added to our American Shad program, our Waterman's internship program support, our American Eel project, that's an ongoing project with us, and a new one from Virginia Tech for a virtual reality tool to help with some outreach programming for Virginia seafood and aquaculture industries. And I do apologize, there is a typo here, but our Recreational Fishing Advisory Board member and our members of and the Commercial Fishing Advisory Board all recommended funding the projects presented here, and that number should be 783,543 from the Virginia Saltwater Recreational Fishing Development Fund and $220,033 from the Marine Fishing Improvement Fund. Do you have any questions?
Ms. Nelson, just clarify on the item for the Commercial Fishing Advisory Board, because there is a name change in there. Could you just clarify, what we're doing with what's going to be the former named apprentice program, now named
Absolutely.
internship program, please, just for clarification, it's the same program.
Correct. So we've come to you before for funding for the apprentice program. This is the same program. We're just renaming it to better align with Virginia Works, which we're a part of at this time. After review with them, we realized the word internship is actually a much better fit for the program we're running. So in addition to this funding, we'll be launching sort of a bit of outreach to share that name change with the public that we're going to, versus apprentice, calling them interns. However, the program itself is the same.
Right, because we're not a registered apprentice program.
Correct.
So we're getting in alignment with the State Development Office, which is good. They're great partners of ours. Okay, any questions, Ms. Nelson? All right, seeing none. Good job. Anybody here to speak in favor of any of the projects or opposed to any of these projects? Seeing none. Back to the board.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve the projects as presented by Ms. Nelson, by Mr. Headley.
Second.
The second from Mr. Brandt. Thank you, sir. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Ayes have it. 6-0. Okay. We'll note Ms. Edwards' wasn't present for the vote, but that's all right. Item number 10, license status request. I think this is the first time you've been before us.
Yes, it is.
Want to introduce yourself to my board?
Good morning, board members. I am Jack Deerstein, and I am the manager of the licensing and mandatory reporting program. So it should be pretty quick for you today. We have one license status request. Mr. Christopher Akers first purchased his commercial card in November of 2025. He missed the deadline of April 30th to renew his license, and since then has submitted a 2-year exception form. The exception form was denied as he did not meet any of the requirements for exception in Regulation 610. So Mr. Akers is here to speak on his behalf.
Let's see here, I can still say, good morning. Good morning, Mr. Akers.
Good morning.
Do you solemnly swear testimony you provide today will be the truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
State your name for the record.
Christopher Akers.
Okay, sir, which would you like to say?
Well, I was used to having a recreational license. I was not aware that it was like a set day that you had to do it. I actually didn't even know until another waterman told me. He said, "Did you renew your license?" I was like, "I didn't get them until November." He was like, "No, you gotta renew them every April." I was like, so I had no idea. If I had known, I definitely would've. I mean,
This is your first time in the fishery, sir?
yes.
Okay. What are you gonna be doing?
I mainly just catch rockfish.
Just going to striped bass, so you have striped bass quota?
Mhm.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Seeing none, thank you, sir. You can have a seat. All right. Matters for the commission. What do we want to do here?
What I was going to say is pretty much similar. Mr. Hidley asked me what was I going to say because he saw me motioning. If I could,
Please, Mr. Preston.
when you, come on back up so I don't talk to you at your seat. But when you purchase your license, and that waterman's card, that harvester's card,
Yes.
you have to understand the rules that come along with holding that. All right, this isn't our problem, this is your problem. And I say that in a nice way, because I don't want to see you in here again, all right? And
Be sincere about that.
I am very, because we do this on a regular basis, and it is not the commission's fault that your license expired
understand
and got to this point, okay?
And you know, I made it a point, I put all my quote in when I caught the fish, and if I had known, honestly, I would.
And you reported the catch last
I
year.
reported every time I caught a fish, every time I went fishing, who was with me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I took it seriously. I mean, I paid a lot of money for the license.
I'm sure you did.
Um,
That's not about this, though, because it's
no,
still
but I'm just saying,
$190.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm,
Yeah.
it's not a joke, you know what I mean? So
Understand.
I understand, you know, it's very important to do what you're supposed to do. And if I had known, I definitely, I would have done it. It won't happen again, you can believe that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else from the board?
I'd
Mr.
like
Preston.
I'd like to make a motion to approve reestablishing. You still need to pay.
Yes.
That's how this board works too. And, so I do not get paid, just FYI. But you reestablish and give you back your harvester. No, I don't. Give you back your harvester, your waterman's card after paying and don't come back in here again, please.
I'll second it.
And a motion by Mr. Preston and a second by Mr. Headley to reestablish the license. Any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. Yeah, they are very serious. They don't want to see you back here.
I don't want to be back.
They have long memories. So, with that, I don't think there's anything else coming for the board, and it is still the morning.
Wow.
And I understand that lunch will be here at 12 o'clock, so 5 minutes. There being no further business, the meeting is adjourned. Next commission meeting will be held Tuesday, July 28th, 2026, 9:30 a.m. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
That's done.